Set up your first AI teammate with Claude Code Routines. Your coding agent is fast, you are the slow part. So let me show you the smallest possible machine that fixes that. It has 4 labels, 2 Claude Code Routines as the workers, and you as a merge gate. And by the end of this video, it's going to be running on a real repository, opening real pull requests without me. The team behind the WARP terminal published a post that is deliberately provocative. We are now factory engineers, not product engineers. What do they mean by that? Their argument is your job is shifting. It is moving from writing each change yourself to building an internal machine, a software factory that ships changes for you. And they're not just writing about it, they run their own development in the open right here at build.warp.dev. And that is over 1,000 issues sitting in an agent pipeline. You can go and watch this. Now, the full factory is around 9 stages deep. It has a triage agent, spec agent, implementation agent, review agent, and a lot more. All of it orchestrated by the platform they built themselves. That is a lot. And here's the thing. You do not need any of that to get the core benefit. So what we are doing today is scoping this idea all the way down to the smallest factory that still actually works. GitHub Issues, 4 labels, 2 Claude Code Routines. That is the whole thing, and we are going to build it live. We need a real repository to do this. I've set up a simple starter repo if you want to do this live with me. It's called Godwith. It's a simple task manager app. 3 states, 1 list, no accounts. Right? This is deliberately boring because the app is not the point today, and I'm going to prove that this is an actual working app. I already have it cloned locally. First thing is I'm going to do run ready. It's going to run the test cases, build the packages. It has 3 packages, the app, the marketing side, and the docs. I'm also running the dev servers here. Let me show you that simple app, right? I'm going to do we are making a video today. Simple to do app. It has 3 states, doing, done, and to do. And then you have the marketing side, a simple page, nothing crazy here. And then you have your doc site, which has a couple of pages. Now, the shape of this repo is actually very simple. It's a mono repo. It's using Wheat Plus. It has 1 shared core package and 3 apps, the task app, marketing site, and the doc site. All TypeScript, 1 toolchain, Wheat Plus, small enough that you can hold it in your head so that you can understand what we are doing here. Before we build anything, let me be precise about what is actually slow here, because I think people get this wrong. If you are using coding agents today, the implementation part is already fast. That is not your problem. What is slow is you. And this diagram is the whole argument. So let me walk it. On the left, you can notice that we have a couple of issues. Bug search is broken, feature idea, flaky test, vague user report. This is normal for most applications. And every one of these need you to read, route, and spec before you pass it on to your development team. Now look at the right hand side. You have all these AI agents, but they're sitting idle, doing nothing. And they can easily take on all of these issues. The only issue is no one has routed any work to them. So in this problem, you are the triage bottleneck, and that is the exact thing we are about to remove. Now, before we proceed, I'm going to do something. I'm going to create 4 labels, and I have the script with me, and that's about right. So what this is going to do is going to create 4 labels I'm going to need to set up my factory machine. Now, before I can show it here. Yeah. These are the 4 labels my script has created. It's needs triage, which means it's a new issue. Nobody has evaluated it. Then we have the ready for agent, has a written spec, small and verifiable enough for an agent. Next, we have ready for human, which is needs a product judgment or is too big for an agent. And then you have your spec implemented, which an agent opened a draft PR for it. Now, 4 labels in a list is not a state machine. We need to be connecting them together. This is where I'm going to explain this stuff. Now, when a new issue arrives, it gets needs triage label. Now this is waiting on our triage agent, which we will be creating soon. The triage routine picks it up, and here it forks. Either it writes a spec and the issue becomes ready for agent, properly spec, or the routine decides this one is too fuzzy or too big for an agent, and it gets a ready for human label, which will require your judgment. And you can either add the comments and implement yourself, or add a bit more clarity and give it back to the agent. Now, look at the implementation routine takes ready for agent issues and opens a draft pull request, and the issue becomes spec implemented, which you then review and merge. And the routines here move the every label. Merging stays yours. And each run is stateless, so the labels are the factory's memory. We are not using any spreadsheet or any file to store what's happening here, right? It's just the GitHub issues working here. Also, you get something else for free by using GitHub issues. The entire factory is inspectable from the issues page itself, which you pretty much look every day. You don't need a new dashboard for this. Warp team has built their own dashboard because they're doing a much complicated process here, which suits their requirement. But for us, that's a lot. And this simple 4 labels state machine should work. Now, you saw that my script did create the labels. I'm going to show it to you here too. You see there's a ready for agent, ready for human, spec implemented, and the needs triage labels created here. Of course, I don't have any issues right now. I'm going to seed a couple of issues. All right, this should do it. Again, these issues are written in a way that issues, like how issues actually arrive in your GitHub issues tracker, right? Not like extremely detailed or anything. And all 5 of these issues are born with needs triage label on them. Let me read you a couple of them while this happens. Let's see if the 5 issues have been created here. Yeah, the 5 issues are created here. And like I said, everything has a needs triage label here. Let's look at the first issue. This one is task titles keep the spaces I accidentally typed. It's super clear reproduction, fairly simple issue, and you can see what is being asked here. I would assume agent to take it directly on. Next, let's look at this app feels sluggish. And this has no numbers, no reproduction steps, no definition of what a lot of tasks means here. So this is something a human has to look. Again, you get the idea on how these issues have been created, nothing crazy here. I'm not going to tell you how I would route these. That decision is the routines job we are going to create. And of course, this is going to require us to evaluate and improve the process. But for this learning purpose, this should be fairly simple. Now, one small thing I want you to know is not a lot of people have these label hygiene. In my case, I have a GitHub Action, which is actually gonna look at the issues and by default add the needs triage label for each and every issue that comes on the tracker. Okay, you can set this up, nothing crazy. Otherwise, you'll have to come here, come to your issues and manually add this needs triage label. So we have got a queue full of issues, 5 issues and 4 labels to move them through. Now, who does the moving, right? I was talking about Claude Code Routines, but do you understand what Claude Code Routines are? Honestly speaking, Claude Code Routine is just a saved prompt that runs as autonomous Claude session on a schedule, even when my machine is off. It runs on the cloud. That last part matters because it's going to clone the repo, it's going to read the issues, pull requests, post comments, and it's going to push branches. It's going to be prefixed with Claude, you can change that, and it's going to open pull requests, which is basically everything an engineer would do. So basically this is your factory worker. Now I'm going to show you the diagram here. Yeah, every morning the schedule fires and the schedule is 2 routines. One is a triage routine. It's going to be a little earlier than the implementation routine. It's going to read the need triage issues, writes a spec in a comment and routes the label. That is its entire job. So triage routine, it's going to add the label, one of those ready for human or ready for agent labels. Then the other routine which is going to run maybe 2 hours after is the implementation routine, and it's going to pick up one of the ready for agent issues and opens a draft PR and labels it spec implemented, which you then go review and merge. Now remember, this factory never merges. It's going to only raise draft PRs and only 1 issue per run, and this is the quality gate you should set up. And differs from your requirement, but you need some kind of quality gate here. Otherwise, it's going to be a mess of AI slop. Let us now go build those 2 routines. Now, I'm going to run Claude here. I'm going to run it in auto mode. I don't want you to type it out manually. I already have the prompt here. I'm just going to read it out here what's happening. It's a schedule/schedule. It's the command which Claude themselves provides. And by the way, if you're not on Claude, this can also work with Codex, Cursor, whatever you're using. They just call it differently. Claude calls it routines. Codex, I believe it's called automations of schedules. Cursor should have some similar name. All the major AI agents out there, they provide this service. Okay, now coming back to the actual prompt. Every weekday at 7 a.m., triage the open GitHub issues in this repository. For every open issue labeled needs triage, read the issue and all its comments. If it is small, well scoped and has a verifiable outcome, write a spec as a comment. Expected behavior, acceptance criteria and the files you believe are involved. Then remove needs triage and add ready for agent. If it needs a product decision, touches auth or billing or is too large for 1 PR, comment 1 sentence on why and then remove needs triage and add ready for human. If the report is too vague to spec, ask the reporter a clarifying question in a comment and leave needs triage on. And the quality gate again we have here is never close an issue, never edit code, never open a PR. This routine is all about triage. It shouldn't be acting on any code. Right? So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it here, right? Now, here Claude might ask me a couple of questions. By the way, you can also do this on the Claude Code web platform too. In fact, what my Claude Code in the terminal does, it's going to route me soon to the Claude Code web. So that's not a worry. All right, you see it's able to detect my repo. All 4 labels already exist. Now it's asking me which model should the triage routine run on. It's a fairly simple, you could use Sonnet, but if you think it needs better calls or needs better spec, you could use Claude Opus 5. My repo is fairly simple here and I'm going to just go with Sonnet. I'm noticing that there's some issue with payload being sent here. Nothing crazy, it figured it out. But if you are struggling, you could just go on the Claude Code web and directly create the routine there. All right, it has already created the trigger here. I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna show it soon. And it's also pointing out two things for me. Never edit code, never over API. Rule is enforced structurally, not just by the prompt. I left write and edit out of allowed tools, so the agent has no way to modify files. This is good. And it also added some Google Calendar and Gmail. I think these are the default that it adds. It's asking me if you wanted to clear, you can clear it. All right, this is good. So I'm just going to show you the routine now. You see, this has already been created here. It has created the prompt with much better structure than what I pasted. This is good. One thing I'm not sure here is if the label edit and add would work. I have no idea. I'm just going to run it right away so that we can see this works. All right. Run the trigger manually now so that I can also verify if the label mutation works. Now, it did trigger the routine, and it's also giving a guess on what would be the outcome. So like I said, the task titles one is ready for agent, no way to clear a done task, ready for agent, keyboard shortcuts in docs, sideware, ready for agent, right? And it has set up a monitor to check what's happening. And by the way, you can now come to your routine on the web, and you can also see it running here manually. So if you click on it, you can actually see what's happening here. All right, it did use those two tools. I was worried whether it would have access or not, and it looks like it did work. So all right, it seems to be working. This is great. You can already see that the first issue has now the ready for agent label, and it has also created a comment here with the acceptance criteria, files likely involved. So you get the idea how this triage is working. This is great. I really like how this is working. All right, and this is good. And my Claude has also figured that this is working. I'm gonna just stop the monitor here. I don't need to worry about rest of this stuff. We just saw that our triage routine worked absolutely brilliant. Now we are gonna work on the second routine, which is our implementation routine, because its job is to pick up one of these ready for agent issues and directly work on it. Now let's see how that could look. Schedule every weekday at 9 a.m. That was running at 7 a.m. This is going to run 2 hours after that, because I'm assuming it's going to take 1 hour for the triage routine to stop its work. You can plan this out. There's nothing crazy. I'm just random here. And it's going to only implement one issue from this repository. You could do it 2, 3. Just to ensure this is working, try with one issue. Then pick exactly one open issue labeled ready for agent, oldest first. If there are none, stop. Read the issue and its spec comment. Implement it on a new branch, follow claude.md and run the project's checks and tests. Sometimes I have to put this follow claude.md, but because I've noticed the Claude Code web sometimes does not look at claude.md file. It's just a bug I've noticed, so I'm just putting it here. This could completely be optional, by the way. Next, open a draft pull request that links the issue, summarize this as a change, and lists what you verified. Then remove ready for agent and add spec implemented. If checks fail or the spec is ambiguous, do not push broken work. Comment on the issue with what blocked you. Remove ready for agent and add ready for human. So you see how this is working as a proper teammate here. Again, never merge, never push to main, never take a second issue. I don't know how you've set up your projects, but always protect your main branches. If GitHub does not give you that option because you're on the free plan and on a private repo, then maybe add such quality gates, right? That this is the case with me, so that's the reason I'm putting it here. Now I'm going to copy this. I'm going to just clear the session so that I'm working on a fresh session. I don't need the context for previous work. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, let it go. Again, the same question, which model should the routines cloud agent run on? Again, you could argue that the triage agent should have been a better agent, like an Opus class or a Fable class, and the actual implementation would have been a smaller model like Opus. Here again, the repo I'm working on is fairly simple, so I could use both Sonnet, and that is what I'm going to go for here. Again, this is a decision you take. For the video purpose, this is more than enough for me. And by the way, you can always change the model later on the Claude Code web. You can just go edit and change the model which you want to use, so you can keep updating your routines to use the latest models. Again, the same issue which we are seeing here. Again, Claude will figure this out, nothing to worry. This is done, and you can see this time the tools have increased. It also has the write and edit this time. Nothing crazy. Let's also check the routine here. And by the way, like I said, you can always edit it here. You can always change the model. So nothing crazy here. Now we can trigger this manually from here, or you can also click here. I'm just going to click here. Okay, one workflow run has started. Let us inspect this. Okay, it did pick the oldest issue. It is fetching its spec comment, and again it's using the GitHub MCP here to figure out most of the stuff. That's good. All right, I already know that it is working on the task here, and I'm just going to wait for it to create the issue. Like I said, this thing is running in cloud, so it's going to figure out how to install the dependencies and everything. So in your case, if you have a very complicated setup, so ensure you are first working on the setup so that that setup can easily run on Claude Code cloud sessions. All right, it is going to raise the PR now. All right, it has done its job. It has created the PR here. So I'm going to just go and check the pull request. Now, you see there's already a draft request here, trim task titles on create and rename. And if you actually look at the issue itself too, right? It should have the spec implemented label here. It is the issue, the PR is also linked here, crazy enough. Now let us actually look the PR. Now again, this falls on you. In the case of WAP, they also have a verification agent, and they could also automate this process where this also directly is merged into the code base. I would be against it, but it's a fairly simple app, so I don't have to worry. Let's look what it did. Okay, yeah, this was a fix. Simply trim the input. It's doing it in, I believe, in the add as well as in the rename task. So that's good. It has also written the test cases. So again, fairly simple task. Any agent would have done it. And the CI gate is also working. By the way, CI will also run the test cases. It's not like I was not running the test cases here. So it was also running the task.test.ts here. Now, here's the thing. While you're working on this, there's a high chance you are going to take some time to figure out whether this thing is working or not. Here's a couple of things. You can always pause the task, pause the routine here. So I'm going to do it because I'm done with this video at this point. So I'm going to pause it. I don't need these routines running here. And by the way, I also use this on my actual work repos. I use it for Frontend Hire itself. It's going to look at Hacker News APIs and figure out what's trending, what kind of course I could be making next. All right. Now, you could see that this was working extraordinarily in my case, but this is because this is a very scoped down version of it, and the repo itself is a fairly basic one. In your case, it could take some time to figure out, and I would say spend the time on this because this automation will really help in the longer run. And keep working on the prompts themselves. Keep updating the prompts, update the model, see if you need to add any new details here. You can also expand the state machine to add your verification agent too. But I hope you see the value in this here. And by the way, if you think the spec is vague and it has added a ready for human label, you can go comment on the issue and move it back to ready for agent. So you can also keep doing this on less important tasks so that you can focus on more important work. But always remember, have the quality gate, which is work should never be merged without you having a look here. Now, you could also go to a stage as complicated as WAP. For example, here our triage routine was also creating the spec, but triage routine could just add something like create spec label, and then a dedicated spec agent would pick it up. So in this case, triage routine would be something like Sonnet. The actual spec agent could be something like Fable or Opus class. And then you could also have a code review agent. You could also have a verification agent. That's what WAP does at a scale. I just built a scoped down boring version so that you understand what's happening here. Try this first before you go and expanding all those different agents, because you want to ensure that this system earns your trust before you build all the other 5 stages or something like that. All right. If you think this was really helpful, go practice this on your actual repos. Of course, if you're working in a company, you might need to figure out the permissions here. I assume most of you already have the permission set up. It's just setting up the factory now. Go read the articles from WAP. They're very good, very well described. And also read the official Claude docs, Codex docs, or Cursor docs on the automation limits, how to figure out the GitHub access and everything. And this repo is also public if you want to go try it out. And but yeah, I would say just go ahead and try this on your very own repo. All right, that is it for this video.